Dad left me our house when he died, but my mom kicked me out to live with her new family. 15 years later, I tried to take my house back, but they're threatening me, so I brought cops. So, here's the shitstorm I've been dealing with. My name's George, and my dad passed away when I was 18. He left me our family house, a place filled with memories and love. But my mom, Freya, who remarried pretty quickly after Dad's death, decided she wanted to start a new life with her new family. And guess what? That didn't include me. Within a year, she kicked me out. I was fucking blindsided. She said something about wanting a fresh start and that I needed to be independent. She moved her new husband and his kids into my house and sent me packing with nothing but a suitcase and a bitter taste in my mouth. I struggled for years, couch surfing, working shitty jobs, barely scraping by. Meanwhile, she played house with her new family in what was supposed to be my home. The anger and betrayal burned deep, but I was too broke and too broken to do anything about it. I kept telling myself, one day, I'll get that house back. 15 years later, I finally got my shit together. I worked my ass off, saved every penny, and put myself through night school. I became an electrician and started my own business. Life was finally looking up, but that house, my house, was always at the back of my mind. One day I was talking to an old family friend, and the topic of the house came up. He was shocked to learn that I never got it back. Turns out, Dad had legally left the house to me in his will, and I had every right to reclaim it. That's when the fire reignited. I wasn't that scared, powerless kid anymore. I was ready to fight for what was mine. I lawyered up and filed the paperwork. Legally, I was still the rightful owner of the house. Mom had never transferred the title. She just moved in and took over. My lawyer assured me it was an open and shut case. I felt a surge of hope and excitement. This was it. My time had finally come. Armed with the legal documents, I decided to confront Mom and her new family. I went to the house, my house, and knocked on the door. The door opened, and there stood my mom. She looked older, but I recognized the surprise and guilt in her eyes. Her husband and his kids stared at me from the living room, confusion and hostility evident on their faces. "George, what are you doing here?" Mom asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Taking back what's mine," I replied, handing her the legal papers. "This house belongs to me. You have no right to be here." Her husband, Tom, stormed up to the door, snatched the papers from her hand, and started yelling, "You can't just show up and throw us out. This is our home now." I stood my ground. "No, it's not. You've been living here illegally. You have 30 days to pack up and leave, or I'll have you forcibly removed." The shouting match that followed was intense. Mom was crying, Tom was cursing, and the kids were looking at me like I was some sort of villain. But I didn't back down. I couldn't. This was my chance to reclaim what was rightfully mine. Over the next few weeks, things escalated. Tom started threatening me, saying if I didn't back off, there'd be consequences. I received anonymous calls in the middle of the night, threatening to ruin my business, hurt me, even kill me if I didn't leave them alone. I was scared, but I wasn't about to give up. I documented every threat, recorded every call, and kept my lawyer in the loop. The threats only fueled my determination. These assholes had stolen my home and tried to scare me into giving up. Not this time. Not ever again. Then, one night, things got physical. I was walking to my car after a late job when two guys jumped me. They roughed me up pretty bad, broke my nose, and cracked a few ribs. While they were kicking the shit out of me, they warned me to stay away from the house. Lying in the hospital, bandaged and bruised, I realized I needed to take this up a notch. These bastards weren't going to back down, so neither was I. It was time to bring in the big guns. With the police now involved, the threats and the attack were taken seriously. I filed a restraining order against Tom and anyone else in his family who had threatened me. The cops advised me to stay away from the house for my own safety, but that didn't sit right with me. I wanted to see justice served. Finally, the day came when the eviction notice was to be enforced. With police backup, I went to the house. Mom, Tom, and the kids were all there, defiant to the end. The cops served the eviction notice and told them they had to leave immediately. Tom started yelling again, but this time the cops weren't having it. They warned him once to calm down, but he kept pushing. He ended up getting arrested for threatening an officer. Mom was sobbing, begging me to reconsider, but I stood firm. It broke my heart to see her like that, but I couldn't let her betrayal slide. As they were forced to pack up and leave, I felt a mix of triumph and sadness. I'd finally taken back what was mine, but the cost was steep. The house was empty, a shell of the home I remembered, but it was mine again, and I knew that, with time, I could rebuild. So that's the story of how I took back my house. It was a long, painful journey, but in the end, I stood up for myself and reclaimed what was rightfully mine. If you are ever in a similar situation, remember, don't let anyone take what's yours. Fight for it, no matter the cost.